Dad was a corpsman in the Navy at Chelsea Naval Hospital. He's heading somewhere, and this tall gentleman, he wasn't in uniform, but this tall, weathered gentleman said, "Can you tell me where the dental wing is?" Dad said, "Yes, sir, it's blah, blah, blah." Told him how to get there. Well, later that night, Dad's at chow with a friend of his. It was a dental tech. The dental tech says, "Holy crap, you won't guess who we had in the dental clinic today. Admiral Byrd." Dad said, "Yeah, what was he like?" And the guy, his dental tech friend, is explaining, describing the man. It's like, Dad goes, "Holy, bleep. I told him how to get there. I didn't know who he was."
I got one more thing I want to say about Antarctica. Okay, Mary Joyce has a photo and has talked about it on my show that going back a couple years ago, there was an entrance to a cave that you could fly a 747 through. And a few weeks later, she went back, to, look at the pictures more through the satellite. And all of a sudden, you couldn't get it. You couldn't find it. It was blocked out.
Well, and that reminds me of when Michael Hall and UFOI team went to East City Ranch, and they have that picture that they made that video of Mount Adams, and you could see the door on the side of the, I guess you could call it a UFO hangar door, but it was basically a doorway on the side of the mountain that was there 1 minute and closed. So, sounds very similar.
Well, the Google techs have totally rearranged Antarctica. If you zoom in under the McMurdo station, or around, and you're going off coordinates that Linda Moulton Howe is revealing in her series, you start zooming in, and it looks like it's a good picture. And the minute you zoom in about 3 times, then all of a sudden there's like a shadowy part or even a part of an ocean that is like right there where she was talking. I'm like, really? Like they've stitched over.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I ain't surprised. You won't see what they don't want you to.
No.
Right.
So, Nikki's in the chat room.
Proven. Oh.
Nikki, real quick, and maybe you can answer this too. Nikki's in the chat room asking what true evil is, because they're talking about true evil being at the and being in Antarctica.
Wasn't that Buzz Aldrin came back? One of the ex-astronauts apparently went down there, and when he came back, that was his. There's something there, and it's pure evil, or it's attributed to him, I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And with that, was it Buzz Aldrin, or was it Neil Armstrong?
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the... I know
it was
it was
one of them. I'm sorry,
an astronaut, yeah.
Blank.
I don't remember myself.
Now,
Pope went down there, and also a couple of our higher-up senators, like John Kerry was down there recently. So, they're going down there, and they're looking at something. And I know from the series that all 3 of these whistleblowers described the feeling of inside the 62-acre underground compound, and it was off-world feel, and it was something almost like off-limits, like they knew they shouldn't have been there, and had feelings of like impending doom. And I also heard something outside of Linda Moulton Howe's thing, that when we found this, we unleashed something, and they call it Hostile Zero. I'm still trying to vet that, but it was a very anti-human alien.
can I ask you a question?
So,
Could Antarctica be melting? Could Antarctica be melting not just from global warming, but maybe it is warming up underneath all these ice packs with help?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not talking human help.
That too.
I'm not talking human help here.
Underneath the ice is warming up and getting ready to take off.
Maybe it's more
Yeah,
than
no,
maybe
I-
it's more than one.
When you think about evil and hell, people have the idea that the inner circle of hell is fire, when in actuality, going back far enough, the inner circle of hell is ice. Could this be a racial memory, or could it be our ancestors knew that something extremely evil was down there? They say that the reason Antarctica, the poles froze, is that the planet tipped on its axis. Here's a scenario. You've got the Atlanteans, and you've got this group, this thing of evil. What if the only way to have saved humanity was for the Atlanteans to use their technology to flip the poles, to freeze this evil in place, even though they knew it was going to doom the island of Atlantis?
Very well said.
And maybe this is now, okay, it was a stopgap temporary measure, but this evil is coming back to the surface.
Now, can I ask you a question? Do you think
Yeah, sure.
the release 2 years ago from the fighter pilots off the Nimitz, all of a sudden, it gets released to the news media, it gets shown on all the networks, it starts getting people talking about UFOs. That's when it really started in again. Then you have the Secretary of the Air Force 2 months later telling the graduating cadets that the next World War will not be a ground war, it'll be out in outer space. Then you have a president 2 months later joke around saying, I'm going to create a space force. And then we got this wall issue. We got all this weird politics stuff is going crazy like you wouldn't believe. Are they trying to keep our minds off of something it's maybe about ready to hit the what?
Oh, absolutely.
People remember Ed Grimsley, the guy that said there was a war in space, and if you had unfortunately, what you needed to see it were $5,000 Gen 3 night vision goggles, but he would show up at these UFO cons. He had some, he didn't have, he would say, here, look, there it is.
Well,
I almost wonder, okay, now I saw a USO when I was on the Nimitz back in the 80s. These lights underwater, and we were off I believe we were 15, 18 miles off the coast. We were just far enough off the coast of Puerto Rico that if you weren't looking directly at it, you could see the sky shine above it. It's an old that's an old astronomer's trick, is if you're looking at a faint sky object, don't look with the middle of your eye, look off to the side, because the cells in your peripheral vision are better at seeing low light than the middle of your eye, right at the fovea. But basically, it was blown off as, you saw lights on a submarine. Well, 19-year-old me and 56-year-old me can tell BS a little better.
Well,
they're out there. The military is aware of them, and we do come into contact. We cross paths.
Right.
I wasn't supposed to be outside. I was snuck out on a catwalk and was having a surreptitious cigarette. But I'm wondering. You see, since I was a kid, okay. I'm just thinking my parents took me to see 2001 Space Odyssey. Whether they thought I would enjoy that movie at 5 years old or they couldn't get a babysitter, I don't know. To me, that was the first science fiction movie that said we are not alone. There is an intelligence out there, blah, blah, blah. And you progressively go further. Then you get series like Stargate Atlantis. it's almost like aliens and space have become. I mean, my God, think of the 50s and the 60s. All the space and alien-related cartoons. I mean, they started programming me at an early age. I can't remember a time that there wasn't some kind of alien presence, space presence, something dealing with that other world, that extraterrestrial reality. My generation was raised with that almost from the cradle. So I think it's been a slow 50-year progression of some kind of disclosure.
Well,
you remember 2 years ago we did an S-4 on UFO cults in the 40s and 50s.
Well, Eric,
remember that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, you had the Venusians. It's ever since that first UFO, Kenneth Arnold, it seems like all of a sudden there are Space Brothers and all the... Okay, for all intents and purposes, as far as our science has been able to detect, there's no humans. I mean, any probe that we have sent to Venus has dissolved.
Yeah.
I think the Russians have the record between the heat, the pressure, and the acidity. But is that just a clever way of them hiding themselves?
What?
Is Venus? We sent a probe there back in I think it was the 90s that actually used like LIDAR or some kind of imaging to map the surface of Venus.
Well,
the problem with this stuff like Antarctica, Venus, the backside of the moon, all this stuff, or even, Dulce, New Mexico. Yeah. You and I can't go there to see for ourselves.
No.
No, Eric, I want to say...
It's totally inaccessible.
Go ahead, Gary.
You can be a journalist, whatever. You're going to go there. You're only going to see what they want you to see, even if you can get there.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I want to say this. I told you this before. My dad's best friend during the Korean War was James Gardner, the actor. Mm-hmm. And I've said this, I think, to you. I've said it on my show numerous times. I didn't know who James Gardner was when I was a little kid. When I got older, I realized, hey, that's the guy that played Maverick. Anyway,
Maverick,
yeah. Well, talking to James, I was really infatuated with Ronald Reagan. Bonzo and all those movies he made. And I said, I really would like to talk to him. I didn't think anything of it. About a week or two later, at that time, Ronald Reagan had a monthly show where you could call up for young people to call and talk to the president and ask him a question. Well, I never called the show, but he called me at my house, and I got to ask him a question. That was really cool. A week later, I get another phone call from Ronald Reagan at the White House, and we were talking, and I was really concerned because the Seattle Times and the PI, they were talking about, maybe, the Cold War was escalating, and they were talking about Star Wars. So I asked Ronald Reagan about Star Wars. I said, is that going to protect us against Russia? And he said, no, it's for them out there. I didn't think anything of it 2 years later. Them out there. What's that mean?
Well, you said it.
Well,
you said it
I think of that UN address. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. How we would leave our petty differences behind if outside something about like an outside enemy.
If an outside force such as aliens would come and invade, basically.
Basically, if we were under alien invasion, we'd band together to kick butt.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I think it'd be, to be honest, I think it would be more like when, one, for the sake of argument, if they're only about 50 or 60 years ahead of us, maybe we'd stand a chance. if they're super, if they're like 1,000 years ahead of us, it's going to be